Hey guys, I got a new video for you today. Now, if you've been following my channel for a while, you've seen me talk about this company here, Outtack Outfitters, before. Basically, they specialize in anything from survival to bailout bag gear to emergency preparation gear, which is really cool. Now, this is their information right here, www.outtack.com, and their phone number is right there. They're actually based out of Miami, Florida. Now, I ran into them at the last gun show that I was with, and I was kind of talking to the guys there, and we got to talking about preparedness, especially living in South Florida where we had not that long ago that hurricane scare, and just the philosophy that a lot of people wait until the last minute to actually go out and buy their survival stuff or their preparedness stuff and things like that. So, just making sure that people are always aware that they should have some sort of items, just to make it through, any particular type of situation where in the area where we might live. Now, one of the things we were talking about is a lot of guys that do prepare, they prepare for themselves. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but basically what I mean is, like, let's say if you have a family, maybe you have a 72-hour bag or a bailout bag or something like that you keep in your car in case you're at work and something were to happen, it can get you home and things like that. But, what about your wife or your significant other? What about your kids? If they're at school and something were to happen, you kind of have to rely on whatever the school has to offer, or whatever your significant other's job has to offer, because not a lot of people think about, those things. So in that topic, I was kind of thinking, I said, I would like to have something to, to kind of put in my kid's backpack that he either has every day or something that he can keep at school, just little comfort items here and there, just to make sure that if something were to happen, before I can get to him, he's able to rely on those things. And they actually have a kind of basic kit that they've put together, for some of the situations. So this is the kit, and if you guys have seen the videos before, you've seen me review something similar to this. This is in a what they call a pencil case. Now, the one that I reviewed before was a little bit more involved. It had knives and a couple more gear things and stuff like that. So this is obviously a more scaled down basic kit. Now, like I said, this is a pencil case, which is really cool because it's very thin. It keeps a very thin profile, so if you want to throw it in a backpack, if you want to put it in a desk or in a glove compartment, it'll fit very nicely. But it also has the 3 rings, so if you want to put it into a 3-ring binder, it won't take up that much room, and it'll always be there. Now, as you guys can see, these retail for $8, and I think it's a great deal, with the for the stuff that you get in there. Now, I do want to put this disclaimer out there. This is the kit that Outtack Outfitters has put together as a basic kit. Now, this is sold as is, but if you do want to modify it, you can tell them, hey, I want this, or I don't want this, or add this, or take this off, and, they'll obviously modify it to your liking, specifically with, the colors, if you want the pencil case in another color, if you want different, flavors of the food bars and things like that, you can always add it or take it away, and they have a lot of items then that you can, put together into this kit. So I'm going to go through the kit and what it brings, and then I'll also give you a little bit of a philosophy as to what I think about the kit. All right, so like I said, this is a really nice reflective red pencil case, which is really nice because it makes it very easy to find. And then it has the open window in the front, so you can see what's inside, maybe when things need replacing and stuff like that. So that's always good. So let me go ahead and open it up. The first thing you find is obviously the this 10-count facial tissue pack. It's really cool, in case you need to wipe your nose, wipe your hands, or anything like that. You got some paper to do that. Second item in here is just an emergency blanket. Obviously, this is your standard size emergency blanket. If somebody were to get wet and they need to to warm up and stuff like that, this will come in handy. To cover up if they get cold. That's what that's there for. Also, it's very reflective, so if they need to use it for some sort of signaling or anything like that, that's obviously a secondary use for that. Third thing in here is a very basic first aid kit. Basically, this has a couple band-aids in there, and then a sanitizing hand towel. So like I said, just very basic. It's in this little Ziploc bag, so the Ziploc can be used for something else if they needed to, but that's just a basic first aid kit. And then last but not least is 2 of these basically energy bars, raspberry and cherry flavored, and they do carry a lot of different flavors in these bars. So in case, let's say one of your kids is allergic to a certain type of fruit, like cherries or something like that, you can substitute that for something else, and you're good to go. So this is basically what the this basic kit encompasses. The food bars, the blanket, the first aid kit, and the tissues. Now, I thought that this was a great idea, but just in the way that I would see my son using it, or I would want him to use it, there's a couple of things missing. First thing would be a flashlight. This is just a standard Maglite flashlight, and it's just because if something were to happen where the lights go out and stuff like that, the school might have one flashlight for the teacher or something like that, but you want to make sure that he has his own flashlight. So obviously I would throw one of those in there, and I'm pretty sure that they have those available to throw in the kit. The next thing would be a whistle, and this is just one of your standard P-less whistles. It's got a little clip on it, which is really nice, if you want to clip it on your belt or your shirt or something like that. And this is obviously more for signaling, or in case there's any problems or anything like that, because the whistle will carry further than a scream or somebody yelling or something like that. So that's always good as a defensive tool. Also, if somebody were to come up to him or something like that, he can blow this really hard and startle them, or deafen them for a little bit or something like that. And then the last thing I would actually add is a Sharpie. Now, I know a lot of you guys thinking, well, Sharpie, why would you add a Sharpie? But, from a survival point of view, if you were to write down, if you were to need to write something down, like maybe a location or where you're at, or, if you want to use the pencil case and maybe on the back, write help, and then, put this up against a window or something like that, that way you'll be able to do that, because, just putting this up on a window won't really tell anything, to anybody. But if you write help, or we're in here, or survivors, or anything like that, then, that's always good. So these are the 3 other items that I would add to this particular kit. The other thing I would do is maybe spruce up the first aid kit a little bit. Maybe put some medication in there, obviously age-appropriate medication for him, or if he were to require any type of specific medication, I would add that to the kit also. Now, this is obviously something that came to mind, making sure that everybody in the family is taken care of when it comes to being prepared and things like that. So, obviously I would want, maybe the teachers to know that he's going to have this. And obviously, as you guys can see, none of this stuff is, prohibited in any way at any school. There's no knives, there's no pointy objects or anything like that. So, this is, like I said, a more basic kit, just some comfort items to have for a just-in-case situation. So if you guys, feel the same way, definitely check out Outtack.com. Outtack Outfitters. Give them a call or check out their website. They have all the information of all the products that they carry. They carry this and a whole lot more products. In case you guys want to make, a basic kit. I mean, $8 for a kit like this. Maybe if you want to add your own stuff into it, then that'd be great. Now, by all means, I just want to make sure that you guys understand that this isn't the end all kit to have. This is just some suggestions of somebody that's already providing some information for you, as Outtack is. They have the stuff already in store. All you have to do is go ahead and order it. But if you guys want to put together your own kit, go out to the dollar store and buy a pencil case and just buy your own items, then hey, by all means, you can go ahead and do that. Obviously, I would like to see, the company given a little bit more recognition, and I don't get anything from them. I do this because I really believe in the idea that of the information that they put out. So let me know if you guys have any questions. Definitely, if you check them out, let them know that you saw this video. Maybe they can cut you some sort of deal or something like that. But the guys down there are really, really cool, and they definitely want to take care of everybody. All right, guys, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.